World War E. World War Epstein continues to roil the world, creating a kind of internal political civil war everywhere it goes. So here is from DropSite News. If you guys remember, just to catch us up, DropSite News has been analyzing 100,000 leaked emails from Ehud Barak. Ehud Barak is known as the former prime minister of Israel, the Labor Party. That's the kind of left. It's their version of the Democrats. And the Ehud Barak was the prime minister while Bill Clinton was the president in the 1990s. So you had the American left Democrats and the Israeli left Labor Party in power together in the 1990s. And before that, Ehud Barak was the head of Amman. That's Israeli military intelligence. It's about twice as big as Mossad. It is the Mac Daddy over there of the intelligence world, Amman, and Ehud Barak was the head of it before he became their version of the head of the Pentagon, the defense minister, and then the prime minister, eventually the head of state. So 100,000 emails of his leaked or were hacked, evidently by some Iranian outfit, and poured onto the public access. And unsurprisingly, as I predicted years before the leak, but I've been talking about it in media months before the leak, that Ehud Barak and Jeffrey Epstein are peanut butter and jelly. They are they have a very, very long relationship. I suspect it may even go back to the 1980s during Iran-Contra, when Ehud Barak was the head of Israeli military intelligence during Iran-Contra, which started off as a joint CIA Israeli military intelligence operation to secretly run arms to Iran in contravention of international law and an arms embargo, and then to skim the proceeds of those illegal arms sales to fund another illegal operation in Nicaragua. The double whammy. And as I've been explaining in my grand theory of Epstein, this kind of running series here, I don't see Epstein as a blackmailer. I don't see Epstein primarily or even anything more than tertiarily as like a underage child sex trafficker. I'm sure he did that. It appears pretty clear he did that. I've explained how I think that came about, probably through the Adnan Khashoggi link, and how he saw Adnan Khashoggi moving in the 1980s and probably just kind of copied that style. I think that the Epstein story is best understood as a financial fixer, as a deal maker, as someone who can command the covert transfer of money and the onboarding of a donor network to profit the hedge fund class world and to profit national security states in the US, in Israel, in Saudi Arabia, in the UK and France, by essentially connecting government leaders with donors, arms dealers, probably drug runners, and all manner of BCCI style covert finance. I think that's why so little is known of how with Jeffrey Epstein's $1.2 billion that he moved through JP Morgan, still no one can explain how Epstein made his money. And I think, again, it's as a front person for these large donor drafter class networks. So let's just read this. Jeffrey Epstein pursued Swiss Rothschild Bank to finance Israeli cyber weapons empire. Epstein to Ehud Barak. Ariana de Rothschild said to me, if Ehud wants to make serious money, he will have to build a relationship with me. Take time so that we truly understand one another. Wow. That's quite a statement. Ariana de Rothschild said to me, if Ehud Barak, so the Rothschild banker, is saying to the former head of the Israeli military intelligence, Israeli military, and Israeli prime minister, that if he wants to make serious money, he'll have to build a relationship with me, Ariane de Rothschild. Let's build this relationship so we can truly understand one another. Okay, let me kind of refresh myself on Rothschild lore. All right. CEO of Edmund de Rothschild, a private institution specialized in private banking and asset management. Okay, born in 1965, so she's 60 years old. A French banker. So this gets back to these French connections. French and UK. She's the first woman and first person without Rothschild lineage to run a Rothschild-branded financial institution. She was married to Benjamin de Rothschild from 1999 until 2021. Net worth of 5 billion euros. Born in El Salvador. Father was a senior executive at Bosch. Lived with her parents in Bangladesh, Colombia, Zaire. Married Benjamin de Rothschild, 99. Heir of the Edmund de Rothschild Group. I wonder how many assets under management they have. $184 billion. Billion. It's not dollars. It's C. Conversion. Convert. Swiss francs. Okay. So that's $228 billion assets under management. A nice chunk of change. Okay. All right. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so she was at AIG. Interesting. AIG. 9/11. Uh-oh. All right. So Benjamin de Rothschild was a client of AIG. The AIG stuff is friggin' weird, man. It's quite a rabbit hole. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. All right. So she's got 225 billion to play with. With an avalanche of new documents released, blah, blah, blah. Okay, all right. Let's just get to the good stuff. On July 31st, 2019, before he was found dead, his connection to the Rothschild banking dynasty became the subject of major public controversy. Anonymous sources, 2015, visit to Epstein's New York mansion by Baroness Ariane de Rothschild. Okay, so she visited Bloomberg. She visited Epstein in 2015. So that's 7 years post-conviction. Okay, one of the largest Swiss financial institutions. So again, now we're in the Swiss banking network. One of these classic havens for covert money moving. Switzerland has all sorts of weird secrecy laws around beneficial ownership and bank accounts. So when you hear about large net worth individuals having offshore, Swiss bank accounts, it's because Switzerland is very unique in that way. As we've covered, many of these unique banking locales, Vatican City, with the Vatican Bank, the Cayman Islands, to some extent, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Jersey, Guam, all these guys. 4 years later, after Epstein's meeting calendars were leaked to the Wall Street Journal, the bank finally admitted that Rothschild had met with Epstein as part of her normal duties at the bank between 2013 and 2019. Epstein provided instructions to U.S. finance leaders and law firms and tax consulting, risk consulting, while helping de Rothschild personally on a couple of occasions with estate management. That was always Epstein's OG from his Bear Stearns day. The bank remained vague about the actual nature of its relationship with the convicted sex trafficker. Newly released documents reveal that Epstein to Rothschild's personal relationship was much closer than the bank personally acknowledged. Okay, Epstein planned to see a Broadway play with her in 2014. Isn't that how Alan Dershowitz got connected to Epstein, right? Alan Dershowitz, Jeffrey Epstein, Rothschild lawyer. Oh, no. Pretty sure that second. In fact, I know 100%. One second. Yeah, here you go. Dershowitz met Epstein through the Rothschilds. Let's see.
So I did absolutely categorically nothing wrong. And, that's what lawyers do. And that's what people do. I was introduced to him by the lady in Lord Rothschild.
Wow.
And I was told, he knew all the most prominent. So I did absolutely categorically.
Okay. So Dershowitz became Epstein's lawyer because he was introduced by Epstein from Ariana the Rothschild. Interesting. All right. So let's sorry. Where are we? We're here. All right. Second set of documents, blah, 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 blah. Okay, second set of documents, leaked inbox of former Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak, hacked by Handala and uploaded by a nonprofit whistleblower, sheds light on Epstein's efforts to leverage his personal relationship with Rothschild to raise funds for the development of Israeli cyber weapons. After Barak's retirement from government in 2013, so this is right after, he recruited Pavel Gurvich, a graduate of Israel's Defense Forces Unit 8100 technology unit, to source cyber weapons startups from Israeli intelligence community. That's interesting. I say it's interesting because it looks like Ehud Barak linked up with Epstein as soon as he retired from government in 2013. If folks remember, Bill Burns, Jeffrey Epstein, 2014. As soon as Bill Burns retired from public service as the Undersecretary for Political Affairs and then I think Deputy Secretary of State under Obama, Bill Burns, who would later go back into government 7 years later as CIA director, he retired in 2014 from the State Department and then quickly met 3 times with Jeffrey Epstein. So it looks like Epstein goes around to high-ranking statecraft and intelligence figures as soon as they leave their government service and talks with them about their next moves when they re-enter the private sector. Mike, why does Torre Maras dislike you? That source video. Oh, is that the I don't exist Tory person? Honestly, I try not to get involved with this stuff. I said nothing to that person before they started being weird and attacking me from weird angles. There's a lot of people who do good work, but they have petty personalities. You know what I mean? They're in a space and then somebody else publishes stuff in that space and they go, "What? You can't report on this topic. I report on this topic." And it's like, okay, well, you didn't report this. I don't know anything about that person. I've never seen anything that person has done. I just started getting randomly added on X. And then I think she ended up showing up in my replies or quote tweeting me a bunch of times. And it's they're people. And what frustrates me is when it comes from people who are not particularly good at what they do. They have their little fiefdom. This happened with this Colonel person in the Operation Gladio space. This person evidently just all they do is Operation Gladio all day. You know, the NATO stay behind networks stuff from the 1940s to the 1990s. And then in whatever role it continues through these integrity initiative type networks. And it's Yeah, I know a lot about that. I happen to have read, probably half a dozen books just on that topic alone, in addition to just like hundreds, thousands of hours of my own independent research. And but this person, like, I do that on top of everything else I do. And like this person like specialized in that space was like, when I started posting about it, they were like, oh, because I guess my stuff was popular and theirs wasn't, because they do a bad job of explaining it. Like my stuff is popular not because I'm put on. Like there's some shadow network of bots that like, tweets my stuff. It's organically popular because it's good shit. Sorry to say it. And I listened to some of these people who are like supposedly specialists in their space, and they do actually oftentimes like some good stuff, but they're hyper technical, and they don't take. I'm hyper technical too. The difference is I take the time to explain the technical stuff in lay speak, to synthesize it, to break it down into understandable frameworks so that people can understand it, and then they want to share it because they feel like they've learned something. For a lot of these like subject matter experts, I don't know if it's because they're too dense, if they're too proud, if they just don't have enough energy in the day. They're not drinking enough coffee and tea, so they get tired. And so they only do the first half of their job. They research, and then they like make a post about their like if I were to just do something like the Alliance for Securing Democracy provided $107,000 to this Moldovan media station in 2017. What a scandal. Are you guys going to, no context, retweet that? You're going to say, first of all, what the fuck is the Alliance for Securing Democracy? Then you're going to say, Moldova, where is Moldova on a map? And then you're going to say, okay, well, people pay money all the time. What significance is that? But because they're so in their own world, and they presuppose everybody else knows everything, or like everybody else should know the significance of that, they never explain the significance of that. And then when somebody else comes along and is like, hey, here's a group called the Alliance for Securing Democracy. It's an outgrowth of something called the German Marshall Fund, which receives money from USAID and the US State Department, which means these are your tax dollars. And what they were doing is in 2017, there was a internal civil war, effectively, politically, going on in Moldova around the post-2014 Crimea coup and counter-coup. And you had this kind of quasi-covert operation to try to control the media space in Moldova to help this kind of Obama foreign policy establishment blob defeat their political opponents in the buffer state of Moldova. So I'd post something like that, and then I'd get like attacked by a swarm of, what are you doing here in this space? How dare you report on Moldova? That's my beat. Okay, well, you ain't doing shit. Okay, you're bad at your job. I don't know how to say it to you, but like, I'm sure you do. Like, for example, with the Tory person, I think we came across this like 2 streams ago, where one of like the source references was like evidently a Rumble stream that like that Tory person put up. That's good shit. That's awesome. Good job, Tory. For real. I mean that. That's useful. But like, I didn't see any of your posts about it. I only found it because of a Grok request for a source link. B, I also, I guess, wouldn't see if you post anything about it because I think I've got that person blocked because they were just like, I don't know, like spamming stuff and being a dick. But see, I also never heard of that person before they ended up in my replies. And I suspect there's just not a lot of motion there because just not thorough enough. You know what I mean? So you can't have it both ways, right? Like, what is your job to like maximize your own personal fiefdom, or is it to like increase the public record? Now, obviously, you want both, right? Like, you want acclaim and status and money or whatever comes from being, you know, a reputable, on the beat journalist about something. But I get really turned off, you know, when like Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi came into the censorship industrial complex beat. I wasn't like a turf warrior about that. I was like, oh, let's collaborate. Ooh, let's work together. Ooh, here's something that'll be really, really helpful to you guys. Oh, here's what they were doing in Germany. Oh, here's why when you see these Twitter files that reference the Atlantic Council, here's why that's important. The Atlantic Council is funded by the State Department, USAID, the Department of War. They have 7 CIA directors. They set up the DFR lab after the Crimea counter coup. And that's why you see a lot of them trying to censor Ukraine accounts and also right-wing populism because it connects to this, right? Like, be helpful. Come with your hands open. And yeah, obviously, if someone just completely steals a scoop from you, that is like a reason to be like turfy, you know? Like if the Tory person or the Colonel person had like told me something and then I published it as an exclusive when they did all the work to do something, that's obviously a super dick move. And I would expect to get blasted if I ever did something like that. And I've never done something like that. I've had it done to me dozens, maybe hundreds of times. No, probably dozens of times. I can think of about a dozen off the top of my head. It's felt like it with other things, but if I'm being real, no. But like, okay, like for example, the Taylor Swift thing. You guys remember that with Jesse Waters? We broke this on our second episode, Censorship Industry Annotated, episode number 108. We broke the Taylor Swift NATO Psychological Operations Research Center, NATO Stratcom YouTube video with that. Jesse Waters then, his producer texts me. He sends me an email. Hey, can you come on the show tonight to talk about this Taylor Swift video that you posted that's going viral? I said I can't because I'm interviewing Vivek Ramaswamy tonight. And then, so Jesse then live on air makes it look like it's all original research that he came up with. And then he butchered the story. So that gave license to all these, you know, fact checks. So it's like he stole the story and he got it wrong. The double whammy. Like, that's a dick thing. But I have never done that. I've never even done the first step in that. And then secondly, like, I also don't hate Jesse Waters. And I would be like civil to him. I'd be like, yo, bro, good stuff. You've got a great show. You know, it'd be cool if at some point, you know, you could make things right about that, but water under the bridge. You know what I mean? And I feel like these people, because it's all they have, they're protective and hands closed rather than hands open. All right, that was a long detour. All right. So Burns first met with Epstein as soon as he left government in 2014 to run the Carnegie Endowment, which is a big slush fund blob ops kind of covert civil society mover that works very closely with the CIA, with the State Department. It's funded by USAID and the State Department, but it gets a lot of private donation money. And I'm sure that's part of what Epstein met with Bill Burns about 7 years before he became CIA director, to help Bill Burns get foundation money for the Carnegie Endowment. I bet They met 3 times right when Burns left office to run the Carnegie Endowment. You don't think Jeffrey Epstein said, hey, I can help you raise money for the endowment? Same way I help raise money for Harvard. The same way I help fix other people who just left government like Ehud Barak. Although I suspect that Epstein and Ehud Barak go back at a network level before that. So let's see what they say here. After Ehud Barak's retirement from government in 2013, okay, he recruits this guy, right? Private communications between Barak and Gurvich show discussions about a wide range of cyber weapons from Israeli military research, inspired by the Snowden leaks. That's funny. That is kind of funny, right? Edward Snowden leaks all these NSA documents, and Ehud Barak, the former head of the Israeli equivalent of the NSA, Amman, is like, hey, we should have something like what the NSA docs just leaked. Epstein pushed forward a plan to finance Israeli offensive cyber startups with the hope of winning Rothschild support. Oh, that's a nasty sentence. 100 from Linda W, PhD. Appreciate your generosity and open-handed approach. Thank you, Linda. Linda sent me some good stuff, by the way, if you don't mind me saying that. I don't think we'll have the bandwidth to do that on this stream, but I will either next stream or the stream after, Linda, we'll hit the Cyabra stuff and the secondary stuff that you mentioned, because I know that that was cool stuff, and that's definitely in our queue. But I find this really interesting. Epstein pushed forward a plan to finance Israeli offensive cyber. So offensive cyber, that's going to mean hacking. Kind of ironic because it was offensive cyber against Ehud Barak's email account, which is the reason that we know about this whole thing. Evidently, Iranian offensive cyber is what successfully got, Ehud Barak's emails. Look, live by the sword, X by it. Epstein often played the role of middleman, facilitator, interlocutor, friend of the station, handing off messages between the banker Rothschild and the former Prime Minister Ehud Barak. In one note, Epstein passed along a tantalizing offer from the Rothschild to Barak. If Ehud wants to make serious money, he'll have to build a relationship with me. Take time so that we can truly understand one another. Epstein asked for advice, deferring to Epstein's supposed expertise on women. I'm ready, he wrote, but I need your advice re how. Ladies is your forte. That's funny. Let me get a little bit of music on. Yeah? Yeah? Let's do... kind of like this one from last time. Is this the one? How's the volume? Is this okay for background volume? Let me know if that volume is all right. Also, I might partake of this bagel. So this is kind of funny. So Philip McElroy says, how does a guy who runs an intelligence network not get laid without Epstein? Well, he's actually not referring to getting laid here. Like, what he's actually saying is, so Jeffrey Epstein says, listen, Ariane de Rothschild, who's got $227 billion worth of assets under management in her fund, passed along to Jeffrey Epstein that Ehud Barak needs to build a relationship with Rothschild so that she can trust him and invest money in him. And so I think Ehud Barak was being cheeky when he said, I'm ready, but I need your advice re how to build that relationship. And I think making a cheeky reference to Epstein being good with ladies because this is a late lady to Rothschild. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Neither Barack nor Rothschild responded to requests for comment. It's not clear whether the Rothschild Bank ultimately participated directly in Epstein and Barack's cyber weapons effort. But in October 2015, the Rothschild negotiated a $25 million contract with Epstein's Southern Trust Company, the same entity Epstein used to fund Barack's intelligence-linked security startup, Reporty Homeland Security, now known as Carbine 911. Okay. Epstein and Rothschild remained in close contact in the years before his death. One email exchange in 2018 with former Obama personal lawyer, Catherine Rumler. Epstein gossiped about de Rothschild's marital issues with Benjamin de Rothschild, heir to the Rothschild fortune. He wrote to the White House friggin' counsel, the top lawyer for Barack Obama. Ariana de Rothschild said her husband, Ben, is giving her a very hard time and did not know about tattoo. She said he wants her to do wife-like things. Ugh. Rumler replied, barf. Oh my God. That's crazy. So this is the White House fucking general counsel. This is the top lawyer in the Obama White House in 2018. Are you feeling better today, Jeffrey? Are you feeling better today? Epstein writes, only slightly. Ariana de Rothschild said Ben giving her a very hard time, did not know about tattoo. Rumler, the Obama White House lawyer, says, what is Benjamin upset about, Benjamin de Rothschild? She said he wants her to do wife-like things. Ugh. Barf. Wow. Wife-like things. As a wife? Barf. You're only going to be getting like a $227 billion inheritance from me. God forbid you do wife-like things. Rumler met Epstein when he reached out after she left the Obama administration on behalf of the Rothschild Bank. What the fuck? So this is what Epstein does. Every time these government officials leave office, he reaches right out to them. Bill Burns, as soon as he left the State Department, Epstein reaches out to him. Ehud Barak, as soon as he leaves the Israeli government, Jeffrey Epstein reaches out to him. Kathy Rumler, as soon as she leaves the top legal position in the entire Obama White House, Epstein reaches out to her. It makes me wonder if Epstein was still alive, would he have reached out to Mark Milley to get him to join JP Morgan? Because that's what Mark Milley is doing now. He's a banker at JP Morgan. Wow. Asking if she'd be willing to represent the Rothschild Bank in an ongoing Department of Justice investigation into money laundering and tax evasion. Rumler accepted and helped negotiate a non-prosecution agreement. Holy shit. What? What a fucking scandal. So the Justice Department investigates the Rothschild Bank for money laundering and tax evasion, which are like the Jeffrey Epstein specialty moves, right? Like my whole theory of Epstein is he is a financial fixer and money laundering specialist. So if you want to covertly move funds in a covert action as an intelligence agency or as a high net worth individual, and you don't want it tracked by all these other governments, you go to someone like Epstein, whose Bear Stearns network will move that money for you. That Bear Stearns network turned into the JP Morgan network after JP Morgan acquired Bear in 2008. So the Justice Department investigates the Rothschild Bank. Obviously, as the head of the White House, the head White House lawyer, she can't oppose the Justice Department while she's in the Obama administration. But when she leaves the Obama administration, she can now fight her own Justice Department investigation using the clout of her whole network, the lean on the judicial system, all the little players in it. Oh my God, that's insane. Ehud Barak and Jeffrey Epstein frequently discussed regulatory issues facing their Swiss bank partners as Epstein scouted opportunities to finance Barak's cybersecurity enterprise. The email data sets, which are mostly clustered between 2012 and 2016. Oh, interesting. So Barak was still in government, right? Ehud Barak didn't leave the Israeli government until 2013. So Epstein was working with Barak while he was in government, which is consistent with my theory that Epstein and Barak go back to definitely the 1990s when Ehud Barak was prime minister, but probably the 1980s, at least network-wise, during Iran-Contra. Interesting. Barak and Epstein worked on a partnership between Ariane de Rothschild and Boris Collardi, then CEO of Swiss bank Julius Baer. Not Bear Stearns, a different Bear. Edmund de Rothschild and Julius Baer were both implicated in major tax evasion and money laundering investigations during the same time period. In early 2013, while Ehud Barak was entering the final months of his term as Israel's Minister of Defense, he was being privately courted by international private banks in Davos, Switzerland, who sought to use his political connections to attract ultra-wealthy individuals as new clients. This is what I keep telling you guys. This is how the system works. You work for the government, you make your real money afterwards. When all the people you know in government are suddenly useful, that you can, hey, old friend, remember when we used to work together at the State Department? Remember when we used to work together at the, remember when I was your boss at the Israeli Defense Ministry? Well, guess what? I'm with a Rothschild bank now. I can help you make a lot of money afterwards, but I need a favor from you. I need you to make this Israeli military tech dual use civilian. Nasty. In March 2013, soon after he resigned from the defense ministry, Ehud Barak received a rainmaker agreement from Boris Collardi, then CEO of Julius Baer Group, the Swiss bank based in Zurich. The agreement offered Ehud Barak $750,000 for a one-year retainer, naming him as a strategic advisor, offering geopolitical advice to bank leadership. This is how they always fucking get him. This is the same shit. This is literally what Mark Milley got from JP Morgan. This is what friggin' Jared Cohen got with, although his is a little bit more formalized, with Goldman Sachs. It's always the same shit. Look at this. Mark Milley, JP Morgan, advisor, strategic advisor, senior advisor, to do geopolitical forecasting. Again, because they're betting on the markets, and markets are moved by the U.S. military. Markets are moved by the U.S. Special Forces. Markets are moved by the intelligence and diplomatic arm. And Mark Milley, as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, will know all that shit. Will know all the players. Will have a very useful set of contacts and inside information to help JP Morgan have access to non-public information to trade on. This is like insider trading on national security secrets. Same shit here. This bank, Julius Baer, the Swiss bank, is going to have a leg up in its bets. What markets it invests in, what industries, what foreign exchange currency speculation bets it makes, because they will have the head of Israeli military intelligence and the head of the Israeli military being able to tell them, you know what? This thing's really hot in the military. There's probably going to be billions of dollars in government contracts for this. Or don't bet on this. Both Israel and the United States are bullish on this bearish on this technology. So short this. The Blobster to banker pipeline. Just like Tom Donilon, just like Mark Milley, just like Jared Cohen, just like Ehud Barak. Offering geopolitical advice to bank leadership. In his pitch to Julius Baer, he recommended the bank seek out new sources for capital in uncharted waters, proposing in an email Russian, probably Chinese, as well as Jewish non-U.S. capital as new major sources for capital. When was this? 2013? Interesting. 2013. So this is pre-Russia bad guy. This is the tail end of the Russian reset. The Crimea affair that ended blob support for Russia wasn't until 2014. But then I believe Ehud Barak continued to work with the Russians, with Epstein as the back channel to evade U.S. sanctions. Simultaneously, Barak signed a multi-million-dollar contract with Renova Group, a Russian conglomerate. Yeah. Exactly. So this is Ehud Barak and Boris Kollardy, Swiss banker. Three days after the press release about Barak's hiring was published that July, Olivier Cullum, senior advisor to Benjamin de Rothschild's famous Edmund de Rothschild Bank, sent an email to Barak's close associate Jeffrey Epstein. I hear that Ehud Barak has decided to work for Julius Baer, Cullum wrote. Too bad. We may have been able to offer him something. Too late. This is exactly what I talk about. Do you remember how I said with Mark Milley? With Mark Milley? So that there's probably a bidding war between JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs. They bid on outgoing senior blob power brokers so that their bank can exploit that government network rather than having a competitor in the investment world exploit it. That is crazy. This is like a Ben's blob table read. Epstein forwarded the message to Barak, who replied, not a surprise to you, I believe. Let's talk about it later. Epstein enjoyed a close personal relationship with Ariane de Rothschild. She was then vice president. Now she's the CEO. Barak, however, is not a big fan of de Rothschild. Oh, interesting. He sent Epstein an article on Edmund de Rothschild's $300 million investment fund for Africa. Interesting. Just remember, they ended up in Somalia. No, they ended up in Cote d'Ivoire together in Africa. Also, if you remember, there was that big investment fund for Africa that was that Jeffrey Epstein flew Bill Clinton around in the early 2000s when they were setting up the Clinton Global Initiative, in which Ariane explained that the bank hoped to invest in a booming consumer economy, not endless war for resources. Africa will be the equivalent of China. What is of interest to me is that is not led anymore by mines and energy, but that banks and insurance companies are developing. Ehud Barak was horrified, captioning the article, "Globalization of Cultural and Media Consumption." Is that horrified? Epstein is similarly chagrined. I am aware, he lamented, she is lost. No mystery why Epstein and Barack disagreed with the Rothschilds' take on Africa. The two members simultaneously engaged in mining and energy investments in several African countries, also in Mongolia, selling Israeli security tech to embattled presence in Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and beyond. I don't know about this editorial. Okay. In his emails to Barack, Epstein indicated he viewed Ariane de Rothschild as a misguided byproduct of nepotism. He compared Benjamin de Rothschild's decision to appoint her as chairman of the bank to Ehud Barak putting his son-in-law, a classical cellist, in charge of the Israeli military. She has many inter-family battles as well as business. It would have been like you making Yoed the defense minister because he was family. Wow. Again, we don't know what Epstein was saying on the other side of this. Epstein may have been communicating with Ariane de Rothschild about how shitty Ehud Barak was. That would not surprise me. Epstein seems to kind of play both sides of this. So, people pleaser. Whatever misgivings they had didn't impede the desire to leverage her resources. Okay. He invited Barack and Rothschild to a dinner at his New York mansion on September 2013. New branch opened in London. Any news recently from the lady? Okay. I just listened. Barack was eager to exploit the opportunity. Okay, right. All right, this is what Epstein told Barack what he must offer to the Rothschild. Time, attention, stable, recurring, predictable, where, what, when. Holy shit. Michael Hayden? No! Wait, why isn't this in the friggin'... You guys see this? Michael Hayden? The former head of the CIA? The former head of the NSA? The former four-star military general? Jeffrey Epstein? In 2013, 5 years post-conviction? Consider you, so this is to Ehud Barak, consider you, Michael Hayden, and Keith Alexander. Would be easy to raise serious money. You wouldn't have to do the dog and pony show. Whoa. Whoa. What the? Ehud Barak says, I'm ready. Let's plan it. I'll need some guide along the way. I've also thought on the donor-advised VC, venture capital. Probably we can we can initiate 4 to 5% of overall planned volume based on advanced technologies in mobile tech and cybersecurity, life sciences, and medical devices, food security, food sec. It's going to be USAID food programs, agriculture. Talk to you over the weekend, Ehud Barak. Okay, consider you, Michael Hayden, and Keith Alexander. Holy shit. Keith Alexander, a retired 4-star general. From 2010 to 2014, he was the first commander of Cybercom, United States Cyber Command. He was the head of the NSA. J2 intelligence. Military intelligence. Same as Ehud Barak. Ehud Barak was head of Amman Israeli military intelligence. Chief of Staff for Intelligence. Appointed by Donald Rumsfeld to be the head of the NSA. Keith Alexander deceived the House Intelligence Committee when his agency was involved in wireless wiretapping. Warrantless wiretapping. God, the scumbags. So Keith Alexander deceived the House Intelligence Committee when his agency was involved in warrantless wiretapping. Oh my God, this is going to be around the Snowden, right? The collect it all strategy was the model for the comprehensive NSA domestic bulk collection. Holy shit. So Jeffrey Epstein is putting Ehud Barak, the head of Israel's version of the NSA, Michael Hayden, the head of our CIA and our NSA, and Keith Alexander, another head of the NSA, into a private supergroup to take money from the Rothschild Bank to sell their spyware tech to foreign governments for their own personal profit. So you create the spy tech for our government at the NSA and for the Israeli government at Amman, and then you leave the NSA and you make your real money. Instead of making $200K a year, you make your real money creating a private company, taking all of your know-how and creating a private version of the NSA software to sell to foreign governments so that they can spy on Americans. Fuck you, dude. Now here's the question. Did this go anywhere? Like, did this go anywhere? I wonder. Belong to intelligence indeed. All right. Let's get back to this. Wow, no mention. No mention. Ehud Barak offered Epstein ideas for a donor-advised VC focused on strategic sectors of Israeli tech economy. Donor-advised fund is a philanthropic fund that allows donors to make tax-deductible contributions while recommending which investments and grants to spend the money on. But VC would be venture capital, right? How do you have a for-profit VC with it? Evan Rothschild Bank was known for building umbrella funds with smaller thematic funds that could attract a large amount of capital from global investors. Barak proposed a small fund, 4 to 5% of the overall planned volume, based on Israeli companies in telecom, cybersecurity, and biotech. Soros is big into telecom too. Epstein has been pursuing the concept of a large donor advised fund for several years, according to unsealed emails from the U.S. Virgin Islands lawsuit. After the 2008 financial crisis, Epstein tried to convince J.P. Morgan executives to establish a donor advised fund backed by the Gates Foundation until he was forced out of the bank in 2013. He continued to shop the idea to European private banks after he moved to Deutsche Bank. Epstein reassured Barack that he was in good company with former U.S. military leaders with lucrative careers peddling intelligence-linked cybersecurity products, Michael Hayden, Keith Alexander. Okay. So 4 days after, Ehud Barak arranges this private brainstorm session at the Israeli tech guy. Ehud Barak and his business partner, Gary Fiegel, a former mining industry executive. Huh. What mining company was that, I wonder? Let's see. Glencore. Bribery scandal to cost Glencore $1.1 billion. A billionaire execs avoid blame for now. Well, Mark Rich. Jesus, it's all the same network. Mark Rich, the legendary commodities trader, fled the United States for Europe in 1983 after being indicted for trading Iranian oil during the 79 hostage crisis and evading $50 million in taxes. From Switzerland, Mark Rich continued to operate Mark Rich & Co. until selling it in 1994. Then Bill Clinton pardoned Rich on his last day in office. The company had been renamed Glencore International. Mark Rich & Co. was renamed to Glencore? What the fuck? I literally have Mark Rich on my list of people similar to Epstein in terms of financial fixer that probably worked with U.S. intelligence to covertly move money around when it would make the bankers money and it would help the CIA pull off an operation. God damn. We talked about this example, the Mark Rich one. $1.1 billion in fines. But it's a mining company now? Marine fuel. Millions in bribes to Nigerian officials. Nigerian officials. That's where Ehud Barak was operating, and Jeffrey Epstein in Nigeria, right? I bet you there was like State Department shit in Nigeria and probably UK Foreign Office shit in Nigeria that Glencore was helping out with. Hold on a sec. All right. I thought this was interesting. ChatGPT, I asked it a while back. Tell me all about Mark Rich, all the financing he arranged, and specifics of if and why the CIA got involved in this case. Because there's a lot of rumors about lenience, like letters on his behalf. Now, this is interesting, okay? The CIA, so what ChatGPT claims is that the CIA's Directorate of Intelligence in 1983. Can you guys see this? This is fucking crazy. You ready? You guys ready to see some fucking crazy shit here? CIA's Director of Intelligence in 1983. 1983 was the year what started, guys? Remember, Mark Rich fled because he violated the oil embargo. He traded with Iranian oil with Iran post 1979. What started 1983? Iran-Contra. So the year Iran-Contra starts, there's internal seminar notes from the CIA's Director of Intelligence list Philip Brothers, the Mann Group, Mark Rich, and Cargill as ideal vehicles for transactions that require discretion. So the CIA is contemplating using Mark Rich in his Mark Rich & Co. money fund as ideal vehicles for transactions that require discretion. Of course, Cargill is the major food company. Isn't it like the biggest private company in America? Yeah, it's the largest privately held company in the United States. And that allows it to be non-public, not have to report all this shit. And of course, Cargill is food security. So when you see Ehud Barak talking about food sec, as we saw here, this is going to be these related networks. Food sec. Okay? It's going to be Cargill, who in 1983, the CIA is saying, well, Cargill is good for discreetly moving money around for us in covert operations. And you can bet your sweet fucking ass Cargill is going to be CIA mobbed up in USAID food relief programs. Who wants to test me on this? Food relief, Somalia. Cargill. Test me. Oh, and wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you fucking know it? Cargill provides food relief in Somalia through its partnership with the World Bank, the UN, World Food Program. I say the World Bank because that's basically what the UN is. Just a vehicle for the World Bank. In fact, they even got a $10 million grant to combat the local hunger crisis. So again, that's our fucking taxpayer money with the UN. Cargill's going to move around that $10 million and they're going to do it. What was the word? Sorry. What was the word? I think it was an ideal vehicle for transactions that require discretion. Cargill, which is mobbed up in all these USAID food relief programs, so that they can take food relief money and for transactions that require discretion, i.e., we're actually going to send that money to a fucking CIA-backed Kenyan warlord faction or Somali warlord faction. It's all this shit. Let me show you guys. I wanted to do it. Okay, stop the cat. All right. One of the things I wanted to do tonight, which we won't have time because we have to get to the other stuff. But, you know, I've been talking forever about this. Immigration is not what you think. The Benz remittance theory of immigration and refugee programs. And this is what's happening in Minnesota with the Somalis. Well, so there was this big story that Christopher Rufo published saying that Minnesota is actually the largest funder of al-Shabaab. You guys see this? And I want to do a dedicated stream on this, but we're not going to get to it tonight. But I was saying, yeah, of course it is. That's what the purpose of these immigration programs are. To send remittance money to our friggin' Al-Qaeda cells. Now, I want to show you something about the food relief programs. One sec. It's freezing up on me. One sec. Shoot. The heck? Let me try like this. Wait. How's the connection with you guys? Because my YouTube is not working right now. I wonder what happened. There you go. Okay. You guys ready for this shit? Somalia. Food relief.
1,000 tons of food aid.
To call it.
This is in 1991. As soon as the civil war breaks out in Somalia, and we need a mad scramble for control of the country amidst the civil war. Listen to this. Listen to this sequence. All right.
Somalia was unable to prevent foreign forces entering the conflict.
Imagine 7,000 tons of food aid literally bursting out of a warehouse on a dock in Mogadishu, while Somalis starve less than a kilometer away because relief workers cannot run the gauntlet of armed gangs roving the city. Confronted with these conditions, relief groups called for outside troops to provide security so they could feed people. It's now clear that military support is necessary to ensure the safe delivery of the food Somalis need to survive.
So they have USAID, the CIA front, say, there's a hunger crisis here. We have 7,000 tons of food to deliver, but oh darn, it's not safe to deliver the food. So we need a giant fucking US military presence just to make sure the food is delivered. Okay, so just like that, as soon as you put USAID boots on the ground, you put the US fucking military boots on the ground, okay? That's 1992. Guess what happens the very next year?
So in December 1992, the US launched a military operation on the pretext of protecting the UN humanitarian effort. In 1993, US forces tried to capture self-proclaimed President Adid, resulting in the Battle of Mogadishu. But the operation failed. 2 American helicopters were shot down and their crews dragged through the streets. Around 1,000 Somalis and 18 Americans were killed in the violence.
This past weekend, we all reacted with anger and horror as an armed Somali gang desecrated the bodies of our American soldiers.
What were the soldiers doing there in the first place? They were only supposed to protect the USAID workers. So why did they go and try to murder the president of the country. Oh, maybe it's because you wanted to take out the president of the country and the USAID food program was just a pretext to get the boots on the ground? Because you can't have U.S. troops showing up in a foreign country for no fucking reason. So you got them in using a USAID food program, and then once they're in, you can just use them to take out the head of the rival faction? Less than a year before we needed military boots on the ground to protect our USAID workers, those very same fucking troops go and try to fucking assassinate the head of the rival faction. Play that again.
1,000 tons of food aid literally bursting out of a warehouse on a dock in Mogadishu, while Somalis starve less than a kilometer away because relief workers cannot run the gauntlet of armed gangs roving the city. Confronted with these conditions, relief groups called for outside troops to provide security.
Oh, the relief groups called for it. You didn't call for it, did you? Former head of the CIA turned president, George H.W. Bush. Oh, you're just getting, your leg is just getting pulled around by these relief workers. Well, they came up with the idea, but it sure is a good one, isn't it? Golly. So I guess just to protect these relief workers who are delivering this food, if we're going to deliver food, we got to have military security all around them.
So they could feed people. It's now clear that military support is necessary to ensure.
It's just to protect the relief workers, guys. It's not a military invasion. We're not showing up with tens of thousands of military troops because we're invading. We're just protecting the food. You wonder how Bono's Band-Aid 100 million, 95 million got in the hands of these CIA-backed Somali rebel factions? The food aid, Band-Aid, same shit every time. Same shit, not even a different toilet.
Ensure the safe delivery of the food Somalis need to survive.
So it's just to support the friggin' safe delivery of the food, right?
So in December 1992, the US launched a military operation on the pretext of protecting the UN humanitarian effort. In 1993, US forces tried to capture self-proclaimed President Adid, resulting.
Less than a year later, those troops are going around trying to capture and assassinate the head of the rival faction. Every food aid story is the same. You can't spell food aid without guns. Every food aid program has to have a special forces, peacekeeping, security, military faction attached to it, and that just gets the fucking military in. Because if you just showed up on a boat that said USS up your asshole, the foreign government would be like, we're under invasion, attack. It's like that Trojan horse meme. Except stupider. Well, great. Now we've just landed tens of thousands of troops in your country. Now we can do whatever the fuck we want. But anyway, when you see things, like I say that as context, because when you see things like this, why is the CIA Directorate of Intelligence in 1983 listing Cargill, America's largest private company, whose entire business is the food business, and which operates in every major theater of war where USAID is doing food relief? You'll see just recently a $10 million grant to Somalia just to combat the global hunger crisis. And when the CIA says we can use Cargill to discreetly move money around for discrete transactions that require discretion, That's why. Because they're laundering the money. It's not for food. It's for guns in food trucks. It's for guns in aid trucks. It's to get the military in the zone, in the theater, under the pretext of providing security for a food program. And Mark Rich. Okay, the New York Post reported Rich was secretly funneling data to Israeli and other intelligence services and offered similar help to the CIA. This ex-Mossad director and Prime Minister Ehud Barak told the Clinton White House Mark Rich had routinely allowed agents to use his offices and shipping logs. CIA cables from the early 1980s show the agency tracked Mark Rich's cargoes. So the CIA in the 1980s was tracking Mark Rich's cargoes. Do you not think in the same period, early 1980s, the exact same time Jeffrey Epstein was making his come up, the exact same time that Ehud Barak, while working with Mark Rich, was the head of Israeli military intelligence from 1983 to 1985. The exact same time that Mark Rich was working with the CIA and the Israelis. The exact same time that Ehud Barak was working with the CIA through Iran-Contra, while being the head of Israeli military intelligence. And Jeffrey Epstein in the middle of it all as the money handler for Adnan Khashoggi, the literal action man at the center of Iran-Contra. It's all the same financial fixer network. So you don't think the CIA files are going to have a single time they ever tracked a strange payment moving in the U.S. Virgin Islands for cargo in Nigeria, for a mining deal in Mongolia, for a offensive cyber weapon shipment in Cote d'Ivoire? You don't think the CIA chief of station in Cote d'Ivoire may have eyes on that? But we're not allowed to know because the CIA evidently still hasn't run a single fucking name trace on Epstein or his U.S. Virgin Islands investment fund. They don't want to know. Maddening. Maddening. All right. Let's get music back on. Okay, where are we on this? Okay. So, all right. So this is the Glencore scandal, right? Barak and Fagel. So again, this is Mark Rich. Fagel at Glencore. Glencore, the Mark Rich spinoff. Okay. They tried to buy a major stake in NSO Group. Gurvich emailed Barak a map of undersea transatlantic cables. Imagine a similar network. Chinese and Russian exploitation activities. What? That's weird. Imagine a similar map of Chinese and Russian activities. But weren't they supposed to be recruiting Chinese investment? Chinese and Russian investment? As major sources of capital? So were they going to build spyware for the Russians and Chinese? Why else would the Russians and Chinese give them money Huh. It's kind of horrifying. Let's go spin through this because we have to get onto our main material. Okay, Ehud Barak with Rothschild and French President Nicolas Sarkozy. Epstein bowed out saying he had a cold. We managed all the logistics by email. Great. The president of France, the French banker Rothschild, and Ehud Barak. I mean, this now explains the whole... Wow, this is really, really useful. Barak flew to Germany to attend the Munich Security Conference. There he met with Michael Hayden. No. No! No! So Ehud Barak, while working with Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein pitches Ehud Barak to team up with Michael Hayden for some VC spy tech super fund. Before his flight, Ehud Barak's wife emailed him a dossier on Michael V. Hayden to prepare him for the meeting. But again, these are all anti-Trump people. Michael V. Hayden, who basically published death threats on Twitter about Trump. And Ehud Barak, the head of the Israeli Labor Party. What's so funny about this is, remember, Netanyahu tweeted this article out. Netanyahu tweeted out Jeffrey Epstein claimed to have meddled in Israel's elections. Against Netanyahu and for the Ehud Barak network. Okay. It was good meeting you. Okay, so Ehud Barak sent an email to Michael B. Hayden thanking him for the appointment, referencing an unspecified plan to be set in motion. It was good to see you in Munich. I meant what I said and wonder whether we can meet later this month to review the options. Oh my God. So Jeffrey Epstein sets up Ehud Barak and Michael V. Hayden. Now, Michael V. Hayden at the time was working at the Chertoff Group. So I bet you Michael Chertoff is involved in this. Michael Chertoff's got all sorts of connections to this network. Michael V. Hayden is principal at the Chertoff Group. Michael Chertoff was the first head of DHS, full-term head of DHS. And the censorship, the head of this Disinformation Governance Board, actually. He's at the Chertoff Group. Principal at the Chertoff Group. One familiar rat pack. American media abroad? At the Chertoff Group, Hayden uses his broad geographic and political knowledge to brief clients on intelligence matters that may affect their business. It's all the same shit. Leverage my CIA network to get ahead in business. Just like NDI and their OnlyFans program. Remember the corporate OnlyFans? You get to pay to have private NDI briefings. And the NDI was set up by the CIA. Unbelievable. Let me scan this. Better to talk over the phone. We'll keep working on it. Jesus. Herzliya. Founded by ex-Mossad research chief. Okay, we're still only 3/4 of the way through the article. I think we have to move on at this point. But this is just crazy how much detail is in here. Tentative Ahoud, Ramsey, Jean-Luc Brunel. Oh my God. Finally, in 2018, the Rothschild Foundation, the foundation, back to our graph. You have your hedge fund that makes the investments and makes the money. Then you have your foundation to manipulate the political environment and the civil society institutions to move in a way that maximizes the investments for the hedge fund. Just like with the George Soros Fund Management and the Open Society Foundation. Just like with General Motors. I'm sorry, just like the Ford Motor Company and the Ford Foundation. Just like Bechtel the company and the Bechtel Foundation. They always have that foundation that juices the skids for the deals that the fund makes. As part of the deal, the Rothschild Foundation agreed to invest over $200 million in education grants in Israel. And I'm sure as part of that, the Edmund de Rothschild Private Investment Fund probably got well more than $200 million as a return on investment for access to the Israeli government. Deal making smooth by the Israeli government, I bet. He is ready, assured discreetness. In May of this year, Edmund de Rothschild's bank, Luxembourg unit, was convicted of money laundering related to embezzlement from Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund. First time a bank in Luxembourg has ever been convicted of money laundering. Julius Baer, with whom Barak had a consulting agreement, committed major anti-money laundering violations during the same period. $600 million. Dear Boris, congratulations for the coming settlement with the DOJ. Congratulations, you got away with it. Hi, Jeff. Assured discreetness. What was that term that the CIA used about Cargill? Cargill and Mark Rich are ideal vehicles for transactions that require discretion. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, that was quite a rousing one. I'm gonna make myself some more tea, and then we'll hit our main story, which is the German censorship network.